Hello and welcome to Thursday night Savage Universe stream. I am JM, and with me tonight is Brandon from Star Anvils Studios. Brandon, welcome to Savage Universe.
Thanks.
How are you doing tonight?
Oh, I'm absolutely fantastic.
Glad to have you here. I am always excited to chat with the people of Star Anvils Studios. I'm a good friend of Ross. I got to hang out with a couple of the other guys before, but I'm looking forward to talking with you because we have you have an announcement that kind of came out last week or the week before. We had an article on savageuniverse.com.
Mm-hmm.
If you guys aren't following the news at savageuniverse.com, how are you going to know what cool new stuff is happening in the clinical license space? But give our announcement, or your announcement, not mine. I'm just here to signal boost it.
We have the Saints and Synners Jumpstart out on Drive-Thru RPG now, and it's pretty awesome. At least I happen to think so.
I got to look at a lot of the art, and I'm going to throw up what is the cover. You can correct me if I'm wrong. Let's see if that
is not the current cover. That's the cover for the Tiny D6 version of the book we did with Gallant Knight Games when we partnered with them to start off with. But that's still a great piece that might end up being the cover of the final book.
Yeah, it is a great piece. It's very evocative. So tell us about Saints and Synners.
Saints and Synners is a setting that was inspired largely by stuff like Star Wars, Babylon 5, especially the criminal element. That was always I found more interesting than, I love Jedi and it's all cool and all that stuff in general, but that whole, people with that dark moral gray area that they're always playing in. And so Saints and Synners is where you can choose to either play a saint, and we say that because you don't want to say Sector Agent Intergalactic Task Force all the time, versus sinners, which is slang what they call people who work for the syndicate, the criminals. And basically it's inspired a little bit by like Leverage, Dirty Dozen. Today people say Suicide Squad, where they take sinners and say, here's a little chip in your head, go take down the syndicate from the inside. That's one option to play. The other option really to play is to play strictly as sinners and be smugglers, pirates, whatever you comes to mind for your character.
Are sinners with a heart of gold, maybe?
Generally speaking, I've always played with groups of people who play that. I don't want to say a heart of gold, but they're not necessarily always malicious. They're just people trying to survive in a really not so great world. I've had some players who play a little darker, and I've had some players who like to play with the heart of gold, Han Solo-esque character. Yes.
Awesome. So what's in, you kind of gave us an overview. What excites you most about Saints and Synners coming out for Savage Worlds?
I started writing this because Savage Worlds, honestly. That's why I started. I wrote it long before that, I should say, but I really built the rules originally around it, and I really like the way Savage Worlds has that, pulp action that really fits well with the type. If you look at the art, it's very reminiscent of like 90s and 2000s action comics, which is what I really go for. So I want that sort of like high action feel that you typically can get with Savage Worlds.
Yeah. John Doom brings up a good point. Sometimes you shoot first. Sometimes George Lucas ruins your childhood.
Correct. It's if you look at the art, you could tell.
I'll throw some of those other pieces up.
Yeah, you could tell it's not a happy world where people are hanging out. It's not Star Trek. Yeah, so that's Dom and Recon. That the guy on the right betrayed him and stole his ship from him. They were pirates together. They don't like each other.
It's fair.
Also took his eye, and that's a Star Marine. Because you got to have Star Marines in a sci-fi setting.
You got to have Star Marines in a sci-fi setting. Any cool rules? Is this an archetype that we can play? Is this a guy that we're going to encounter usually on the wrong end of his?
Could be either or. You can play You can play. There's several archetypes. Obviously, we have some art. We've done some neat things with arcane backgrounds, but the archetypes are your typical what you'd expect in a sci-fi setting, inspired by such things like I said, smuggler, pirate, thief, mercenary, Star Marine. Psi Commando, Assassin. Psi Commando, Assassin. That's one of my favorite pieces right there.
Yeah, that one's fantastic.
Their Psi Commandos are neat. Psychic powers commandos, Psyops. And I really like what we did with cybernetics. Honestly, that one I think is definitely different than a lot of approaches that I've seen in general.
Well, let's talk about, you said you did some interesting things with arcane backgrounds. Let's start there and then let's jump over to cybernetics. How did you handle arcane backgrounds? What are some of these neat things that you were able to do with the Savage World system?
Well, I mean, the thing we do with arcane background is cybernetics.
Ah,
Because for me, I love cybernetics. I mean, you see the pirate guy's got the cybernetic arm, the eye. What happens a lot of times, though, is it's default you're objectively better being a cyborg than being a human. You just pay for the equipment. You get it. Now you're objectively better. And there's different ways to balance that out. Instead of trying to make it be like a hard thing to purchase money-wise, whatever, instead, what we've done is cybernetics are an arcane background. And you have these little things called like biofusion reactors. So you have this cybernetic arm. You can write with it, use it to climb a rope, whatever. But you want to suddenly be super strong and punch someone, that reactor can power that arm for a certain period of time. Power points. And that kind of makes a certain balance to where it's not always on, always available. You have to pick and choose when to activate the extended power level of your cybernetics. And that works with there'll be some other future things we're going to do with that too, but aren't going to be in the book as it comes. But that's definitely the main area where I think we explored doing something differently.
I like that because that lets you, as you said, kind of keep a balance, but also show off and do the cool things that you would expect to be able to do with cybernetics when you really want to.
Yeah. So you really have those abilities, but there's a limit to them. They're not always on and always just going to allow you to just batter your enemy with your unlimited power and strength or armor or whatever.
Any other arcane backgrounds that we should know about? And I agree with Random Nerdnim that this sounds like a fun setting so far. I really liked the setting of Edge of the Empire by what they did when Fantasy Flight did their
games.
I was not a huge fan of the system, so this kind of scratches that same itch with a system that I'm deeply invested in.
Well, so arcane backgrounds we included in here. The two main ones that are included in here are the Psi Commando.
Mm-hmm.
Technically, there's a Psi Commando, there's a Cyborg, and there's a Hypertech. And Hypertech is the answer. That's your Matrix. That's your virtual reality.
Okay.
That's and we did that also as arcane background because again, if I'm going to hack and go, I'm going to steal your bank info. Well, if I'm right next to your computer, maybe that's not such a big deal. But you're talking about a computer system that can span the galaxy, is always on, and the level of computers there. We wanted to make that a little more interesting. So you're using some of your powers to activate, and actually that represents your programs, so to speak, that you're activating. And again, your brain can only handle so much, so it gets a certain amount of static over time and it has to rest. PowerPoints. But we just wanted to use the system that exists, but trappings express it in a different way. So that's kind of how that, like you might yeah, Sean, that was.
Yeah, we got Sean in the chat.
Yeah, he helped do a lot of the work on that. Most of it, I should say. I had the basic idea, and he's the one who put it together. And so if you're wanting to attack someone as a hypertech, you're not going to throw a spell at them. But maybe you can, if there's a nearby area, maybe you can take over and shut the camera down, et cetera. You always see people do. But it always bothered me when people would do this all the time, 24/7, turning everything on and off. It's like, there's got to be a limit. And that's where PowerPoints kind of balance that out. I mean, a lot of times they'll be able to use as much as they want, but there is a point where you could run out.
Knights of the Smith Dinner Table said that they're going to add this to their Hit Me With Your One Shot series. And I just posted the link for the Jumpstart in the chat. If you are going to, when you do that, Knights, reach out to me. I'll get it on the calendar and we'll definitely point it at the guys at Star Anvils Studios to show off.
I'll definitely watch it.
So
it's my favorite setting.
What is... Oh, also, we had Random Nerdnim. They're going to try and add it to their Sundered Settings game list. That's awesome.
Nice.
So what do we find in the Jumpstart? Walk us through what's in there so that people... I mean, I know generally what we try and see in a Jumpstart, but what's in your Jumpstart?
So in broad terms, obviously it has, a little gets you an idea of what the setting is like. And then you have a few sample edges. You've got the adventure, you got the NPCs, in there, and you have the pre-gens, 7 of them actually. Probably awesome. Most people won't have 7 people to play a lot of times, but you have the option to pick something that would fit you.
Very cool. Now, Billy Berserker keeps bringing up these Nakira. Why don't we talk about that? Let me see if I got one of those pieces of art in the stash that was able to upload.
Be a bat-looking person.
Sadly, no.
No.
Well, that's on our system side. But tell us about these, because Billy Berserker is. What are some of the different species that you can play? Obviously, these guys.
Yes.
You want to tell us a little about though?
So Billy Berserker is one of the first fans of the setting a long time ago, and he's collected everything I've ever posted over the last few years on the Facebook pages, and started running a campaign years ago. He's been playing games, not always campaigns. But anyway,
welcome, Billy.
Welcome to the show. So the different species you can play are Vukolasai, which are your wolf. I did the whole animal type thing. That's because, again, the era of when I was, that was the easiest way to make aliens, mostly inspired like that. So you got the Vukolasai, which are the wolf-looking aliens. Some people think they're a cat. They're supposed to be wolf, but they're a weird kind of design. You got the Nakira, which are sort of your bat-looking people. You've got the Rusa, which are sort of descended from dolphins.
Okay.
You've got the Zaka, which are your snake lower body and arms and upper torso, humanoid a little bit. There's if you ask me on the spot, I have to go through all the Dunar, which they're the unfortunate species in the setting, because they were so they're basically cloned and created to be the army that attacked everyone in this background of the stories. There was a big war, right. And they're not well liked because they were literally the face of the enemy, even though they were kind of like programmed to do this at first. Then there's the Septrids, which are your reptilian type aliens. And there might be a few surprises when we finally get to the Kickstarter version, but that's most of them. I think I got off the top of my head.
I am really excited about this. It's hitting a lot of the things that I love most about kind of space fantasy. Mm-hmm. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how you, like, mechanically how you handled cyberware, because having played a lot of Shadowrun or run a lot of Shadowrun, mm-hmm. That balance issue, as you kind of talked about, hey, everybody got paid. What did you do? Well, I bought a new car and I upgraded one program on my deck, and I bought one part of a magical foci. Well, I became a new cyber god on just a totally new level because I was able to do X, Y, and Z.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So we didn't have to. We ended up not building. Most people do pronounce it wrong. That's actually based on the what's the Bosnian, because the guy started working with the art early. We kind of used the Bosnian language as the basis for how we describe that name, and so Vukolasai. My friend Samir would be like Vukolasai all the time when I talk to him. So that's the way it sounds. That's there is some Nakira up. Let's see if I get off to the side here.
Oh, there we go.
A little Nakira flying off in the sky there, and that's a Dunar in the dead center there.
Fantastic.
So where were we?
I don't really remember. So we're gonna push forward. I do love the hook for Saints and Sinners, where, especially if you're playing a saint, you're kind of this reluctant, possibly, or looking for redemption. Again, you brought up Leverage, one of my favorite shows, right? Sometimes bad guys make the best good guys. It's just a tagline that I've always loved. And then obviously with the rise of and popularity of Suicide Squad, which really up until a couple of years ago was, about at.
It was known, but comic people knew it was. A lot of them loved it, but it wasn't the big. It was kind of like Iron Man before Iron Man launched. It was a well-known comic. Everyone knew who Iron Man was if they read comics, but not everyone was into him. But the movie brought it to another level.
Let's try this link. That one should. I'm going to double check that. Drive-Thru has just pushed live their new site. And so sometimes links that's working for me. See if that new one works for you guys. Okay, the new one works. Huzzah.
Some people, the saying is I always had is all saints are sinners, but not all sinners are saints.
Yeah.
That's kind of, sometimes, bad guys, good guys.
So when the book So we have the Jumpstart now, and the
Mm-hmm.
Jumpstart is focused with the goal of kickstarting it at some point in the future.
Right. We were really hoping for this year, but another project we have going on has got to be finished first, so it's been pushed to next year. But it's the book is written.
I'm looking forward to it.
It's written. It's been edited. I have so much art. It's really not going to take. We got the trade dress design for the Jumpstart we're going to use, so it's not going to take a lot to get it together when the time comes.
Get it pulled together, and again, when that happens, please let me know. We'll have you back on the show. If we can time it like right before or first week of the Kickstarter launch, so that we can really signal boost for that, and we'll make sure we have an article that goes live launch day, so that everyone knows, hey, this is out.
I'll give you an early preview.
Awesome. Anything you want to send my way preview wise, know that I will drool over and pour over obsessively. What's the one thing that didn't make the cut for the Jumpstart that you really want to get people excited about when the full book is available?
I mean, it's really just a matter of total content. I mean, it's like I want to give you the book, but that's financial suicide. It's really, I mean, I think we covered all the bases of the biggest things. You see the cybernetics, you see Psy Commandos, you see a sample of what the adventure's like. I mean, I think we covered as much as you can in this. So I think anything we cut, really what we cut is the fact that I can't put a book inside a Jumpstart,
right?
Because you can't do it. So yeah, there's just so much of everything, so much art. I'd love to share the art because that's where I started with this. That's what it's like. I wrote my notes, which totaled about 70 pages at the beginning, by the end, I should say, before I brought people on board. But along the way, I got a lot of art done, which really paid off in the long run, because had I not, doing that all at once would have been way too expensive. I did it over several years. Something some people don't know, I don't normally bring up, but some people will notice the change in art style. The early art, like what you see behind me, lines were done by Zach Dolan, amazing comic book artist, should have worked for Marvel, I think. Unfortunately, he passed away a number of years ago, and I had got about 70 to 80 pieces of art done with him over a period of time. And then I was like, I don't think I want to do this now. It was literally a back and forth. Like, the art got me going, and I would think of an idea and I'd write some notes and go, now I want to see it. And then I could write more because I could see it, because then I would have a reference that was consistent. What does this alien look like? How do they appear, so I can write them consistently? So I would get the art done, so then the description would stay consistent. And so then I had to find a new artist. And fortunately, I found Ben Worrell, who's really taken up and done a lot of the new art. You'll see all the new art, like the cover you first showed at the beginning.
Yeah,
that was drawn by Ben Worrell. And then I've had various people color it, like Kate and Annie, who've done work now. Annie's done some work for Pinnacle now, et cetera, and so forth.
Awesome. Yeah. Tinker Hellraiser pointed out how awesome the art is in this Jumpstart. And John Doom, I would agree. Like, look at this Jumpstart if you are looking at putting together a Jumpstart, because it is so well done. And based off what you're saying, Brandon, it does exactly what we would like to see in Jumpstarts, which is, here is a snapshot, a little bit of everything, so that you get a good feeling for what this is going to be when it comes out.
Thank you.
Billy Berserker says that the Star Anvil, your Facebook page, is a great collection of the art for SNS, Knights Arcanum, and the Secret World. And we're going to talk about Knights Arcanum here in just a little bit. But any other thoughts on Saints and Synners that you would like to share with the people in the Savage universe before we talk a little bit more about some of the other projects that Star Anvil Studios has coming down the pipeline?
Sure. So the thing about Saints and Synners is oh, Sean, you're not allowed to do that. Give them back. Is that to me, it's a big sandbox. That's the kind of universe I wanted to create, because that's what I want to play in. So throughout the book, I think there's bits that sprinkle in ideas, and like, there are plot hooks in the book that if you read it, you may not see it at first, but maybe you will. For example, the book will talk about, and I've shared this on Facebook, so it's not a big secret. I just have to go back and read 100 posts. There's another species, so to speak, in the book called synths, or synthezoids, robot people, however you want, androids, whatever you want to call them. And they were designed as artificial intelligence, but not truly sentient. There's an incident that occurs on a planet called Corvo, so they call it the Corvo incident, that triggers the sentience in several of them. And the argument is, well, now that they're alive, can we keep them working for us against their will? Always, if you've watched Star Trek, you've seen the same question brought up. If is it intelligent? Can we? Is that? What are we doing? Are we enslaving a sentient species? So they can what they call the Corvo protocols. Once any of these guys become sentient, and there's a test for it, they must be released. You cannot make them work for you.
Right. So it's the measure of a man.
Right. Exactly where some of that inspiration came from.
Which is that's fantastic.
And so there's a note in there, for example, I say where some of the synths aren't happy with that arrangement. They want to free all the synths, even the non-sentient ones, and they want to figure out how to make them sentient. Is that right? Is that wrong? That's for the players to figure out, the GM to run. That's a story that you can dig into. Do you want to dig into that type of story? Those things are sprinkled throughout the book.
Now, you say that there's a lot of plots and it's a sandbox, which I love. I love sandbox play. It's my preferred style of play. Is there going to be a plot point campaign?
Maybe.
Okay.
That'll come down to is I'm looking at for the cost of it, if I can do it right. I mean, I originally was going to do this Saints and Sinners when Suede first launched. If you bought Suede, you got the first version of this many years ago. And I said, I didn't like how it turned out. So I stopped, waited, got a team, and you can see the results are much better.
Okay.
And if I do a plot point, I don't want to do something that doesn't really, show this the right way. So it depends how much money we make on the Kickstarter. If we think that's something we can fit in there, we'll price it out. We're going to see. I would love to do it.
Awesome.
So maybe. And then the other thing I was going to say about sandbox play is there's other factions mentioned that hopefully will expand other books. Like there's Arrow, which is like the Assault Recon Rescue Operations Wing. Cause I love the, making up, those words. And so that's kind of like the Coast Guard military kind of thing. You can play the small ship, a small crew. You can do that. Or you can do, I played Star Marines, Bug Hunt, Star Marine. You can, I've run all sorts of different campaigns because all those things are there. At some level, it's just we focused more on the book on the Saints versus Sinners now, and then hopefully as we go on, we'll add more.
Very cool. Couple of comments that I starred here. So yeah, it is a great process, and I'll be honest. I don't know if it was this case for you, Brandon, with art inspiring story, but there was some admixture where I would come up with something for Jackals and the artist would give me a piece back, and it would be what I put in the art direction, but then they filtered it through what they were seeing, and I was like, I didn't even think of this.
Correct.
But now this is definitely part of the world moving forward because there was this more than the sum of its parts kind of thing when working through art direction.
So I get what Ben and I have talked about. It sometimes the art informs the story as much as the story informs the art. So when they put that drawing in there, you go, that's not what I intended. But for example, he drew a Star Marshal for me because that's mentioned in there. I said, he drew a Star Marshal. And the guy ended up being a little less athletic than I had envisioned when I first created him. But I said, you know what? Not everyone's built like that. Let's have some normal looking people. By normal, I mean not everyone is exactly like they go to the gym every day.
Right.
I mean, it's cool in comics. You want that. I mean, I definitely don't look like I go to the gym. But I like to see that in my comics, right? But in my stories. But I also like to see like different styles of, different beings looking different. So I was like, you know what? That actually fits. That's a believable character. They stay.
That's awesome.
And other things like that have happened along the way. Sure.
Tink asked, when does the SNS book come out? So it's after your next project. So it's sometime
next year. I don't want to do a date specifically, but next year we're gonna stick with that.
That gets everyone in trouble. And then this was really cool. Knights of the Smith Dinner Table, which is a Savage World Media Network partner. They talked about wanting to run Saints and Sinners. They're possibly starting up a Savage or a Sundered Settings idea, which will basically be like a campaign that skips across Savage settings like sliders in the show, which is really hard to say. That's a lot of great alliteration in there. But I think Landauer pointed out there was a lot of great alliteration kind of coming up in me see if I can find Landauer's comment. There we go. Sentient Synths Syndicate Saints Sinners Spacers. This setting brought to you by the letter S.
Sure.
Nice. Way to just continue it along. Well, let's talk about Knights Arcanum, because Saints and Sinners is not the only Jumpstart that you guys have out there right now.
Yes.
We've talked about it before. I don't think you were on that stream. You weren't able to make it because we started so much earlier.
Too early with job, yeah.
Give us a quick overview of Knights Arcanum and why you are excited about this Jumpstart.
Well, Knights Arcanum is I read a comic a long time ago with it was a Marvel comic. It was Excalibur, I believe, was in a fantasy setting, and I said, "What about superheroes in a fantasy setting?" Thanks, Sean. Done some work for him too. And it evolved. The short version is I figured out basically what I was writing was like a more inspired by like He-Man and Thundercats. So that's really the type of inspiration for the setting. And when I figured that, took a while to get the art again and the working through it. One day, Ross was like, "I think you're really just doing this." I said, "You're right. We're just being inspired by He-Man and Thundercats and similar things." So that's along those lines. You're playing these, super powered beings in this fantasy setting with floating islands, and we really have a cool mechanic. We got it fleshed out pretty much, but it's not out there to see it. You'll be able to like design your nemesis.
Oh, that's cool
for your team, because I think that's cool. Like you get He-Man has Skeletor. You've got Mumra. You want that. You've also got sidekicks. That's going to be a thing. Like, how do you design your team's sidekick to give that? Again, this guy you're always up against, and then
Snarf.
Yeah, maybe not Snarf. Maybe Orko more.
Hey, fair.
But it's that kind of thing that we're really working on that. Again, the art's pretty evocative of the type of setting to give you that high action kind of feel that when you look at it. Jeff, his character's powers were great.
Maybe Not Snarf is Landauer's prog rock band name. Love it.
Maybe not. But yeah, that's a lot of fun. That's got your adventure, some edges, show some equipment. It's very any of the vehicles. If I had known we were going to talk more about this, I would have sent you some more of that. But yeah, it's got that kind of like He-Man vehicle looking going on, and I call it now my brain went blank. Arcanotech, magic technology kind of thing, where you don't have to explain the science of it. If it looks cool, it works.
Right.
So
there's always my son just recently got into Warhammer 40,000. And so we're watching a bunch of lore videos, and I feel like that's the entire orc civilization. Hey, if it looks cool and we believe it works, that's all that matters, man. It'll roll and it'll go.
Yeah, and there's Billy Berserker again. He loves Sledge, which is just this like think like it kind of like inspired by like the Thing or Colossus. He's the big, so he's a giant dwarf.
Yeah,
because the character is actually about 4 foot tall, but when he activates his powers, he becomes about 9 foot tall.
Nice.
So he's a giant dwarf. But anyway, and he carries a big hammer, literally, and just beats the bad guys down.
I mean, there is something just pure joy associated with that kind of play.
It can be a lot of fun.
Is the plan for Knights Arcanum is after Saints and Sinners?
Yeah, the Saints and Sinners has been my project. Honestly, started with me about almost 20 years ago, writing the notes. Back then, it was just going to be a home campaign with 36 adventures because I played every weekend. 8-hour sessions. That doesn't happen anymore. So smaller. But yeah, that's the one that not making it right now is killing me. But I got the Jumpstart out, so I got the Jumpstart out,
and it's gorgeous.
It's ready. So
yeah, it's gorgeous. Well. Do you want to take 5-10 minutes and talk about what is actually next for Star Anvils Studios? That is, it's very exciting, but it's the thing that is coming out before we get to see Saints and Sinners in the wild.
Well, we did a small little Kickstarter for an older video game. I joke it was pretty successful, but for The Secret World, which is based on the video game by Funcom, we licensed that. And we did that for 5e first because we wanted the obvious large mass market success that we did get. And so now we're going to do a Savage Worlds version of that, which is more conversion than anything. And so once we've delivered the 5e version, obviously we want to deliver to the people who already paid their stuff first. That will be the next project that we very soon hope to launch. We'll give a definitive date when we have it, but that one is really cool, and some great things we can do with Savage Worlds. I mean, if you really like your Call of Cthulhu, what's the, that kind of world where dark and horror is all around you, but not everyone knows it kind of thing. And it's definitely, the video game had a lot of action, dark moods.
Yeah.
That's your style thing. It's definitely the thing to play.
I played hundreds of hours of that game, and I was hooked during the, you go through the little intro quest. I'm like, okay, I'm going through the intro quest. That's fine, because you have the faction specific intro. And then you hit that first town that's a little like Dunwich, and you have to open up the internet browser that's kind of built into your UI, because you actually were able to use the internet to search for the, what is the Latin translation of this?
Yeah. It was really crazy.
I was
in depth. So what's neat about playing a role-playing game, obviously, is you can do any of that any which way you want at a table in a lot of ways that you couldn't do in the video game easily. I mean, I don't know if I'd want to encourage my players to look up stuff on the internet on their phones during gameplay, because I think it might break down. But that's definitely some neat stuff. Yeah, like Berserker says, there's a lot of things that 5e art. I mean, Secret World. Too many words. Savage Worlds already supports that 5e. We would have to write extra rules for that. We can't.
Right.
Do, really.
Right. And the chase, I mean, car chases in a modern day horror setting
could be a thing, might not be a thing.
Maybe more running away from the
more like driving away from that dark thing chasing you down the street, that thing. You should run away more often than fight, probably. With Savage Worlds, you can actually fight more. It all depends on how you play the game.
So Savage Worlds, Savage Secret World?
Yeah,
just so my own brain.
Savage Worlds Secret World would be Sawo Siwo, but I don't want to say that, so just Secret World.
Secret World. That's in the near now.
Very near.
And then after the very near now, there is the far now, and that's when we'll see Saints and Synners.
Yes. We have there's a one in between there too, actually. But it's super small and it's already done. It's 99% done. Some
is it a Savage thing, or
that's a Prowlers and Paragons thing? It might get a conversion. It's a superhero thing. The supervillains.
I do love me some superhero games.
Yep.
Anything that, like, I cut my teeth on GURPS Powers was basically the first setting that I ran ever. And then I got into Champions. So anything that I can do that doesn't involve that level of math and still gives me awesome superheroes, I'm 100% in for.
I always say, if you're going to play Savage Worlds and play superheroes, then definitely use Savage US to make your characters. It will save you from looking this bald, because it's so easy to create your characters on that, compared to, you can write down these points, erase these points, rewrite these points. Where am I at with this power? I mean, it really is awesome.
Yeah, I was playing in a Necessary Evil game with John Doom, and hope to get back to it when my energy levels, my E-tank is always blinking this late into the evening, and we start right around this time. So, but we made all of our characters on Savage.us, and guys, if you're not using Savage.us, go over to Savage.us right now and check it out and find out what you have been missing.
$30 a year too, if you want everything it can give you, and that's just well worth it. It's
so well worth it.
Super easy.
And then it's one of those things where if the GM has it and sets it up, then you can just log in and get your stuff done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great.
Well, yes, Landauer, we're continuing the Bald Crew, Savage Bald Crew. Just as long as I can keep this ball rolling. As long as I can keep this ball rolling.
This is what game design does to you.
It is true. Yeah. So, anything else you want to share or final thoughts before we wrap up this session of Savage Universe and call it an evening?
Well, no, let's go for another hour. No, I just want to say I really enjoy the feedback when people read this stuff. We've sold just over 200 sold. Most people took the free option, which I don't blame them for a Jumpstart. They don't know if they like it or not. But we got 250 plus downloads for this already, which I think is pretty amazing. I love it if you would jump in our Discord and say, hey, talk to me about it, because that's why I love talking about my own stuff. Of course I do. That's why I'm here. It's exciting and it's fun to get that feedback from. There's a certain energy level creators get when their product gets out there, and everybody is it's so easy to find what's wrong with something, because that's the natural human order. And I make mistakes, no problem. I get that. That's definitely a thing. My wife will remind me. But if you can say what you do like about it, what you find interesting, because we're going to try to give you more of what you like. Obviously, we don't want to fix the mistakes, but if you don't tell us what you like, then maybe we don't know what to give you more of.
Tink beat me to it. Do you have a link, an invite link to this Discord, and throw it in the chat, or put it in the private chat? Because I think I might have to be the one to post it.
Probably. Let me do it right now. Let me find that, copy, and there you go. At least it works right now.
All right. I'm going to put this in the chat. Go join this Star Anvils Studios Discord, everyone.
And I do think we have an amazing community. I mean, I have had, knock on wood, next to zero negativity in that channel. People just, people say what they like and don't like, but just really great people to play with, game with.
Awesome.
It's a great experience for me. It's really one of the better parts of doing this.
Very cool. Well, Brandon, thanks for joining us. I am looking forward to just all of the other times in the future I'm going to get to hang out with you and talk about cool things that Star Anvil is doing.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. Until next time, get out there, play some Savage Worlds. Let us know what you're doing. If you like Savage Universe, drop me an email. If you have new products coming out, fan license, swag, Ace, Savage World Media Network, go over to savageuniverse.com. Down at the bottom, there's a link to my email, and send me an email. I'd love to have you on to talk about what you are doing and what you are putting out into the Savage World community. Yes, Landauer, everybody's beating me to the punch tonight. We have the next Savage Universe stream is on Monday, where I'm going to be talking with the Domain Game about their actual play. And then next Thursday, we're going to be talking about a Savage Worlds Kickstarter that's going on right now. We'll just continue to roll from there. Hope all of you have a great weekend. Get some Savage Worlds in, and may all your dice ace. Until next time, everybody, this is JM from the Savage Universe with Brandon. From Star Anvil Studios. Have a good one.